Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes and VCRs and video rental stores? Is the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? If you want to go back to school, back to the future, or even back to the beach, then the 80s Flick Flashback podcast is for you. I'm Tim Williams, the creator and host, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest co-host as we revisit a different 80s flick to discuss our first-time watch memories, iconic scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories along the way. New episodes drop every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an episode of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast.
Welcome to this Moving Panels One Shot. Let's have a nerdy little conversation. Joining me today is the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. It's Mr. Tim Williams. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing great. Well, Laramy, thanks for having me once again. It's always fun to talk about comic book stuff.
Yeah, and so what we're talking about today is the first two episodes of Hawkeye that were released. We're going to kind of give our thoughts of this series, predictions maybe of where it's going to be headed, how it compares to the other series, and all that jazz. So just a little, like I said, conversation about the Hawkeye series that just premiered on Disney Plus last week. Mm-hmm. And so here we go. So just initial thoughts. What were your just overall initial thoughts of the first two episodes?
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, I was excited about it from the trailers that came out. Of course, setting it at Christmas time is always fun. Kind of gave you that kind of Die Hard, Lethal Weapon vibe of like good action with snow falling and, you know, good action with Christmas carols instrumental in the background. So, which it did deliver on a few spots.
So, are we saying that Hawkeye will be a Christmas, series?
Yes.
Like something you watch at Christmas time. It's Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
There you go.
Lethal Weapon, I still kind of, I mean, it's not as Christmas heavy as Die Hard is.
No. But it's still set at Christmas, so it works.
Yes, it is set at Christmas, but other than other than the opening of Lethal Weapon, I mean, there's nothing else that is Christmas centered.
Well, we'll discuss that because that's my next episode. So
well, there you go.
So you feel free to drop in on that episode in a week or two, and you'll get the full skinny on what all is so Christmassy about Lethal Weapon. So, but much like Die Hard, I will say this: much like Die Hard, it begins and ends with Christmas songs, so that it is sandwiched with classic Christmas songs for the opening credits and the beginning of the closing credits. So,
all right,
there you go.
Very interesting conversation. Have to check that out on the 80s Flick Flashback.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What'd you think of Hawkeye?
Look, I have to first off say, I don't think I have ever just connected faster with a character than I had with Kate Bishop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Immediately, I really like this character. I want to see what this character is going to do. Yeah, Haley Steinfeld is great in this part. And so it's going to be fun. I'm very curious to see. I like the comedy aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But let's go ahead. Let's start from the very beginning because I definitely want to talk about this. What were your thoughts about Rogers the Musical?
It's kind of, you got to love it, but you also have to hate it at the same time. It's like a weird, I loved the sound of it. It's like it's very Broadway. It has that. It draws you into that Broadway presence, but then I kind of, I sympathized with Hawkeye because it's like I lived this horrific experience, and here you are singing and dancing to it as if it was a fun old time when really it wasn't. Yeah. But the music of it was phenomenal. I was like, okay, is this going to be on the soundtrack? Because I may want to go back and actually listen to this. And then I'd actually seen a reviewer on one of the social medias that said he had seen the two episodes earlier, and he said, I need the full Rogers musical as soon as possible. So he was obviously
I know there's a lot of people who feel that way.
Yeah.
They just want the Rogers musical. Let's just make it a thing.
Right.
Yeah, I got a kick too. He was like, well, yeah, but Ant-Man wasn't there though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they make him look so young and puny, like his character. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
they
didn't
got
really
I
understand
got
his
the
look.
lankiest kid, playing Hawkeye. But I think it was kind of a nice little, kind of a tongue in cheek, or a nice little wink to Marvel in the sense of, or maybe to the fans that were not very happy with how Hawkeye was portrayed in the Avengers movies. Like he really didn't get as much of a story. So it's like in the musical, he doesn't get much of a story either. So it's kind of like, hey, he's a secondary character.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting little. At least that's kind of how I read it.
I actually, I said we start at the beginning. I actually need to go back even further.
Yeah.
I love the connection to put Kate Bishop and her family right inside of the invasion from the original Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Loved that aspect of it. They give her kind of the tragic background of her father being killed in the invasion. I really like that.
Yeah.
It's just a great way to connect it all.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that 2012 pop up, I was like, oh, we're going back to the Battle of New York. So I was just kind of waiting for that moment. So I was a little overly anticipating. So I think I probably need to go back and watch that first opening segment, because I was kind of, okay, when are we going to see the battle in the background? When are we going to hear the rumble of those, those big worm-like ships or whatever? But it was a good way I think it was a great way to set up the story, and then for her to see Clint Barton or Hawkeye in action, and that kind of spawn her desire to learn archery and become the best at like martial arts and fencing and all that kind of stuff, I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked how we got all of that in the opening credits.
Yes, the opening credits were fantastic.
Showing where she's trained, and not just in archery, but she's a gymnast and she's done martial arts, and kind of giving. I actually said this watching this. It kind of gives her a Batman. They're going the Batman route where she's rich, and so she's able to do all of this stuff and pay for all of this high end training. And then of course we get Kate Bishop, and she is causing a huge nightmare at what I guess is supposed to be her college.
Yeah.
Of breaking the bell tower. I had a problem with that though. It didn't seem like she went too far in how she caused the bell to ring. It was like, has the bell just never rung? And maybe it was...
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that's how the bet came about, was we've never heard the bell ring. Does it ring at all? And so she was like, well, I could probably shoot my arrow and hit it, and if it'll move, then we'll see. So I like you, I'm assuming that it's been stationary for a long time, and that was the reason why they were not going to ring the bell, because it wasn't sturdy enough for the motion of the bell.
Hadn't been secured. The rope hadn't been checked to see. Yeah, because I had a little problem with that. I was like, what's called? I don't get it. Like, she didn't do anything major that would cause that bell to go out of control or anything. But so we get into the story. We have her with her mother and soon to be stepfather.
Right.
She finds out that they are engaged. Now I want to talk about them really quick.
Okay.
Because this goes into episode 2 as well. If you ask me, they're laying it on a little thick that Jack is the villain.
Yes, very thick.
So I don't think he's the villain.
No.
I think he's a jerk. I think he's a horrible person.
I think he could be a piece, but he's not the, there's always the bigger threat, especially in the television shows. Like you'll think it's this bad guy, and then by like episode 5, it's like, oh no, there's a bad guy that's, bigger than this bad guy. But once again, I think it's one of those things like, is it a red herring? Are we trying to set him up to be the true baddie, or is he just, he's definitely a jerk. But I do think, coming from that, I guess the second episode where they have the fencing duel, and she's like, he's hiding something. But he could be hiding something about the relationship, not necessarily that he's,
well,
he's doing anything illegal.
He stole Ronan's sword.
Right, yeah, it does have that.
Yeah, which again, I don't think is a villainous thing. I think it's just that he's this obsessed,
sword collector.
Sword collector, and so he saw an opportunity and he stole the sword.
Mm-hmm.
So, after watching these first two episodes, do you have any prediction as to who the villain could be?
No,
Don't say Mephisto.
no, no, definitely. Yeah, this one. We'll see. Knowing that we have, is it Ilyana? I'm gonna mess up her name, from Black Widow, Black Widow's sister. We
Yeah.
know that she's gonna come in at some point because she believes that Hawkeye is the one that killed Natasha.
So you
So
think she'll enter in this series?
yes, I mean
Okay.
that's been pretty much well established. I just don't know when, if she'll come in at the very end or
Yeah.
towards the end of the second episode, I was kind of like, oh, or is this where we're gonna, is she the boss of the mafia, the tracksuit
The
mafia?
tracksuit mafia.
Little
I
on the
don't.
nose, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think she would be.
No, but but yeah, the more I thought, I was like, that they're too loosey goosey, kind of, the dumb muscle than
Yeah.
she would be involved with. So I wasn't that surprised. I kind of had that thought, but then I wasn't that surprised when they showed it with somebody else.
Yeah, I
But
don't.
but we know
I
I
don't.
know she's going to come in at some point. But I also know, because this, what I will assume, I'm not going to say I know, is that she's going to come in as an enemy and then become an ally to end up fighting whoever the big bad is. But then we
Yeah.
got to figure with that common. There's got to be a commonality of that villain for the both of them. So that's what's going to be interesting. Which I like about this one. We don't really know who that bad guy is, or do we really need to know at this point?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and give my theory. I think it's her mother.
Yeah, that's very possible too.
I really do. I mean, well, first off, she's played by someone who is very good at playing a villain.
Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, Farmiga. Yeah, I mean, other than the Conjuring movies, which I could argue that even though the Warrens are portrayed as the protagonist in those, the Warrens were not good people. If you really look into them, I mean, they're con artists.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another podcast.
Right.
But I mean, she played Norman Bates' mother.
Right.
Yeah, she's played villains and other things. And then I couldn't help but go, look, she's got this dark short hair. I mean, she looks like a villain.
Right.
The fact that she was arguing with Armand,
Mm-hmm.
and then Armand ends up dead later that night.
Right.
And I know you're supposed to think that it was Jack,
Mm-hmm.
but I think
That's
because
too easy.
they want you to
Right.
think it's Jack. Even with the end of the episode 2, when he has the butterscotch,
Yeah, and I was
I'm like,
like,
they're just laying this on
Yeah.
too thick.
and then I felt bad for her. I was like, come on, you got to be smarter than that. Why would he kill his uncle and then take the candy from his house during the murder? I mean, it's his uncle. He's probably been to his house a million times.
Yeah.
And just has that candy
Pocket
with him.
some,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I thought that was a little. I think she was definitely overreacting at that point and assuming way too much. But she's already got suspicion in her heart, so any small clue is gonna kind of set her off. But
Yeah. And then you're looking at the mom runs a security company, which means I mean, we saw just from Kate that they have the ability to triangulate somebody's
yeah,
phone
yeah,
just off their phone number.
mm-hmm.
So that means mom has who knows what other abilities in terms of finding people, in terms of accessing, their house without their
Yeah.
knowledge. So we got all of that. I do think the tracksuit mafia is just a fun little thing that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to stay, but
No.
the connection with Yelena, I don't see how they're going to do it. Now, if they bring her in and make her the villain, I would be a little disappointed.
Yes,
To be
I
honest.
would too.
But then at the same time, if they bring her in, make her, kind of a villain for an episode or two until, like you said, they realize that they need to work together, then I start running into the issue of, does that take away from it again being a Hawkeye show? Like, I'm fine with it being Hawkeye and Kate Bishop
Right.
because that's, he's training her to be the next Hawkeye. But then when you throw in the next Black Widow, does that take away
Yeah.
from Hawkeye?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think she's going to have a huge role. Like you said, I think she may pop in for an episode and it be that where, oh, you're my enemy. Oh, you're not my enemy. Here's what really happened with your sister. okay, we're cool, and then she may disappear and just be. But there's got to be a reason why they're connecting those stories together in the future. So, which is once again yet to be seen. So I'm curious. I mean, I think she'll be a great addition, but I do worry about it convoluting the Hawkeye Kate Bishop overall story. But Marvel's pretty smart. They can make it work.
So let me ask you this: what are your thoughts? Because I was a big fan of them adding this in, giving now Hawkeye the fact that he is partially deaf.
Yeah, I did.
Which I don't know if you're aware, that comes from the comics.
Oh, I know. I wasn't aware of that. So,
yeah.
So yeah, when they're in the theater during the musical and his hearing aid, she's, "Oh, you turn your hearing aid down," and then I noticed. But I remember in the movies he always had like an earpiece in, and I was like, well, maybe it's an earpiece and hearing aids. He's always had, been hard of hearing. But then when they did that little flashback, he's like, "How'd you lose your hearing?" And they had the little different scenes of him busting through the glass and explosions by his face. And I forgot the line he had that was pretty good. He's, "Oh, I can't remember if it was like too tough to tell, or he doesn't remember where exactly it happened." But I thought that was a cool little nod to him. So, but you said that comes from the comics?
Yeah. Yeah, in the comics, Hawkeye is partially deaf, and so that just a little aspect of his character, which I think is a great little aspect to pursue. Now, when we go into Old Man Logan, which Chad and I talked about in a previous episode, we get into Old Man Logan. Hawkeye is blind.
Oh, okay.
So, a whole other aspect.
He's had a rough life.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, in the comics, was he always deaf, or was it because of an incident in the comics, or do you know?
You know what? I actually don't know. I would need to do a little bit more research to find out whether him being deaf, because obviously this one implies that it's from all the blasts and explosions he's experienced as an Avenger, and I don't know if that's the case in the comic or if it was something he was born with, where he's gradually lost his hearing. Again, I've claimed this on several episodes. I'm not as big of a Marvel guy as I am a DC guy, so
right.
I have to do a little bit more research, or ask Chad, because usually I can find out more from Chad.
You could add that as a segment of your podcast. We now have a segment called Ask Chad. Who has a Marvel question for Chad?
Yeah, there you go. So moving on, what were some of your favorite aspects of these, or favorite moment scenes? Kind of playing off of what you ask on your podcast. Like, what were your favorite scenes of these two episodes?
I really enjoyed in episode 1. The action is what I really enjoy. Well, I'll give my two favorite scenes. These are first two that kind of rise to the top. In episode 1 is when Kate Bishop puts on the Ronin suit for the first time, and she's kind of, it's kind of that origin story aspect of learning what I can really do when faced with a true enemy. But she had some great fight scenes, and she can show she was able to kind of slip out. I love the line with the guy. She was like, I thought I was the only person working this. Oh, I talked to, was it Chad? She said. Maybe that's
Gary.
Gary. Oh yeah. I talked to Gary, and then he comes up. Who are you doing here? Gary sent me. I am Gary. Who are you? See, that's the problem. You don't even know my name, Gary. I thought that was a great line, and then she kind of darts away. But that whole sequence I thought was really good, so I enjoyed that. And then in episode 2, my favorite scene is Hawkeye at the
LARPing.
The LARPing, where he was like, "Let me kill you." What? I'm not gonna let you kill me. That whole story I thought was just really, really cool. It was great watching Jeremy Renner go through in the slow-mo where he's like killing all the people. They're trying to bring their best move, and he's just like flipping the wrist and he's knocking them all out, which I thought that was just a fantastic sequence that I really, really enjoyed. So those are probably my two favorite scenes, or the ones that rise to the top for me. So what about you?
No, the LARP was definitely one of my favorites. I really liked towards the end of the second episode when Clint gets himself kidnapped.
Yeah, that was good too.
And then he's, they almost were mimicking a scene from Avengers with Black Widow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought the
Black
same
Widow
thought.
is tied to the chair, and she's really setting them up. And then I love the twist of then Kate falls through the
Where
ceiling.
Is Kate Bishop? Where is Kate Bishop? I don't
and
know
just
her. I don't know her. And then she crashes to the floor. Oh, there
yeah,
she
and
is.
just completely messes his whole plans up because it was like, oh, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna have his little chair fight and take these guys out? But we of course didn't get that. I also like that we're getting to really see, because I can't think of any of the Avenger movies where we're really gotten to see Clint as a spy, because we forget he's a spy, just like
Natasha
was. And so the smoothness of him coming to where her apartment's on fire and just slipping on the fireman coat, and the little subtlety of that he always turns when somebody walks by so that he doesn't get recognized, because clearly they've established that people recognize him.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so him being in the house. But getting away from that, so was the guy who stole the suit, was he a firefighter?
Yes.
I couldn't remember if they established that or not.
Yeah, because it was when he closed the door, there was the sticker.
It had the sticker.
Yeah,
which
and so
how he made that connection, and then to find that exact firefighter's Instagram.
Yeah.
And then the fact that firefighter had already, because it didn't seem like a lot of time had passed, had already gotten home,
put the suit on and posted
put the suit on and made that video to post about.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot throughout these episodes, and I'm going, how much time has elapsed?
Well, he got 6 days till Christmas, so that a lot happened in 24 to 48 hours. Because in the second episode, when he's talking to the wife,
she says you got 5. She says you got 5 days left, but then it's already been a day.
Right. So
we're talking about this. We're talking about this entire series is going to take place in 6 days.
Yeah. Now I do want to bring up, because I don't want to forget. I just thought it was great. His daughter. Clint's daughter, the middle daughter, which I thought for sure had to be his real daughter because they look very similar, but that's actually the daughter of one of the Russo brothers.
Well, there you go. I think I knew that.
Yeah, so she was more like a cameo in, of course, the beginning of Endgame when we see her, disappear. But I think she's doing great in her role. I mean, it's not a huge role, but for her to be kind of like a cameo of the director's kid. Now to have a little bit more prominence. I mean, she's definitely got more prominence than the other two siblings in the show.
To be fair, Nathan, who I reminded my daughter as we were watching it, or didn't remind her, she didn't know, but to tell her that his middle name is named after Pietro, Quicksilver.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remembered that from Age of Ultron, but they let
right.
Yeah, they let Wanda know that they've named him Nathaniel.
Yeah.
I want to say they named him Peter, not Pietro, which, obviously it's the same name. But it was because Quicksilver saved Clint's life. So
exactly. Yeah.
Gave his life to save Clint's life. So I like that. I like that.
Which
he also, again, going back to the deafness, the fact that they've shown that the family's already learning sign language.
Yes, yeah.
Because
that was cool.
Yeah.
But a little, now that you say that about Nate middle name being Peter, that adds a little more nod or a kind of a wink when they're outside the hotel. It's like, whatever you do, don't lose your brother Nate. Where is Nate? And he's also just like, well, he's obviously the quick one, so he's gonna escape without anybody seeing him. So I thought that's kind of a cute little Easter egg.
So he sends the family back home in episode 2. Do you think they will be in play in the series, or do you think that was just acknowledgement of the fact that Hawkeye is a family man, and maybe all we'll get is like we got in the second episode where he just gets a phone call here and there? Yeah,
I'm not sure yet. And kind of going from the trailers we've seen, everything seems to take place in New York. It stays there. So I don't think so. I think there'll be more, hey, let's bring another 80s movie that you and I have talked about, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He just wants to get home to his family. Yeah. So maybe it's just that kind of ending scene where he finally makes it to see them on Christmas Day. And that's kind of a good payoff for him at the end, is what I'm kind of thinking of more than, I don't see them playing a major role, more or less just being where he, a good connection for him to want to be home for Christmas.
All right, so I'm I really don't know what much more we can say about this episode. Again, we got 2 episodes. We got a great introduction to Kate Bishop.
Yep.
We obviously we're finally getting to see Hawkeye really get to shine, which we haven't really gotten to see a lot in the movies. I think that her mom is going to be a villain. I don't know how and in what way, but I do think her mom's going to be a villain.
Right.
I know there's some connection in the comics with her being a member of Hydra. I know that there's a connection in the comics with her maybe like she dies and then comes back from the dead, and so there might be a supernatural aspect, which I kind of don't want to see in this. I kind of want
No, I don't.
I kind of want them to keep it very much like Falcon and Winter Soldier was,
Yeah,
very
I was gonna say
grounded.
the same thing. Yeah.
But who knows? We could end up finding out that her mom actually did die in the invasion at the beginning, and who we're seeing now is not actually her mom. We know that we're headed towards Secret Wars, so there could be could be a Skrull connection here. Don't know, but that's gonna be my shot. You think that Yelena is gonna maybe be a villain, even if it's only for a couple of episodes. We don't think the Tracksuit Mafia is going to continue on in the series.
No.
I think they're a catalyst.
They're a stepping stone to the next part of the mystery.
Yeah, but I do think this is going to be very much like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where it's a lot of training, it's a lot of buddy comedy, but in a different way, with Hawkeye having to work with the inexperienced Kate. And I can't wait for them to be both in their purple costumes. I cannot, which I love how Kate's already wearing purple.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Which is funny because you would think, well, that's because she's idolized Hawkeye. I was like, yeah, but you go back to Avengers, his suit didn't have an awful lot of purple in it.
No.
This is where they're supposedly in this show is where they're going to finally embrace the purple. I'm curious. I'm very excited to see when Kate finds out that Clint actually does have trick arrows.
Yes.
I'm excited about that.
Which seems to be going to be the next episode. So, because I don't know if you did, but if you watched I guess like a 15-minute trailer they did for D23, which showed like the past shows, and then it also gave like glimpses of the new shows. They did a pretty big segment of Hawkeye, and they pretty much showed the chase scene that's coming with them escaping, which looks fantastic.
Yeah, and she yells like, "Is that a trick arrow? Is that a trick?" Yeah. No, I saw that one.
You have ones more dangerous than this?
Yeah.
And he gives that look like, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to episode 3 for sure. And then I forgot to look to see if this is a 8 or 10 episode show.
Probably 8 or 9, because that's what I don't think we've done a 10 yet. We've had 8 and 9. Because What If was supposed to be 9, and then they cut out that one episode. But yeah, so there we go. First 2 episodes are down. We'll get the rest, and we'll try to see if once it's over, if it's something we want to come back and discuss the whole series in full. But I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a great way to enjoy the holidays. It's something to look forward to each week, because usually this is the time where television starts to, it takes a break. So you don't get a lot of stuff. I mean, you watch the classics. And all, but I'm excited. So there you go. There's our little conversation about the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye and our initial reactions, our first impressions, whatever you will. So thank you very much, Tim, for joining me with this conversation.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun. I look forward to more to come.
And be sure to check out the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. I know you talked about Lethal Weapon. What other things you got coming up?
I got Lethal Weapon. Of course, it's the holidays. We got Lethal Weapon is our kind of non-traditional Christmas movie we're doing this year, like last year. Laramy and I did Die Hard. So definitely go back and check that one out.
Which is not non-traditional. That's traditional.
Well, yeah. It depends on who you ask. But then last year we did A Christmas Story on Christmas, like right at Christmas. So this year we're doing National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And it's always the big question: are you a Christmas Story fan or a Christmas Vacation fan? And I'm definitely a Christmas Vacation fan more than Christmas Story, so I'm looking forward to doing that one. And Laramy's wife Bethany is going to join me for that episode, so that should be a lot of fun.
She is a huge fan of Vacation. That is one that, I mean, if she had the choice, like you're saying, comparing it to Christmas Story, if Bethany had a choice, Christmas Vacation would play 24 hours straight in our house.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right. Well, thanks, Tim. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Check out, we got, of course, our Christmas episodes coming up. We've got one with Blake joins me to talk about an episode of Batman the Animated Series. We do the famous Christmas with the Joker episode. And then I'm going to do a one-shot teaching you a little bit about an unknown character called Jingle Bell. So be sure to check those out. But for today, for Moving Panels, I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.